Thank you for joining us for this session leader orientation for Hope Global Forums. We appreciate you sharing your time and leadership skills for Hope Global Forums Idea Labs. Today, we will have a brief overview about Idea Lab sessions, the role of a session leader, as well as some logistics surrounding the program. Our schedule for Hope Global Forums Idea Labs will be 90 minutes in length and will be broken into presentation, collaboration, and report segments. Each Idea Lab will have up to 4 speakers, 1 facilitator, and 1 volunteer attendee who will lead each discussion within the Idea Lab. The purpose of the Idea Lab session should be to generate 5 big ideas for each session topic as a way to solve, drive change, or take action towards the big problems presented. These big ideas will be shared with the conference at large and will also drive Operation Hope's planning for the coming year. You will see a great example from a previous program and how a big idea was put into action. In the Idea Lab High Velocity Education, the Race Towards Hope session, the participants decided that the big idea was to include youth in the curriculum. They said, for the youth, by the youth. Operation Hope captured this big idea in the Idea Lab and leveraged it to support financial literacy education initiatives ongoing. They made sure that during that year, they included feedback and the voices of young people from an impactful curriculum. We are looking forward to what big ideas come from this year's Idea Lab sessions. Let's discuss the session flow. For the first 5 minutes, the session facilitator will welcome guests and set expectations for the session, especially as it relates to timekeeping. After that, our speakers can briefly introduce themselves. The session facilitator can prompt this or will defer to the preference of each group. For 30 minutes, the subject matter experts will discuss the session topic. The session facilitator will then end the discussion and will turn it over to you to discuss the big ideas at the table. The session leader will need to keep the discussion moving and on topic. They will need to assign a scribe to take notes and keep track of their big idea. And they will present their group and present the big idea once the table discussion has concluded. For the next 20 minutes, the session facilitator will have the session leaders present their big ideas to the session and subsequently follow up with speakers about the idea. For the last 5 minutes of the session facilitator will wrap up by thanking the subject matter experts, volunteers, and attendees for their participation and support. Now, let's talk about the session leader role. You are going to serve as a table discussion leader during the Idea Lab. This means you will facilitate conversation, make sure everyone is heard, and synthesize big ideas generated by your group to share with the session at large. So what makes a great session leader? First, you greet your table at the beginning of the session and identify yourself as the session leader who will lead the discussion portion of the Idea Labs. You will identify a scribe at your table to take notes on the conversation and track the big ideas that come up at your table. You will facilitate the table conversation, making sure everyone gets the chance to speak and be heard. You will lead the report out of the big ideas your table came up with during the results portion of the Idea Lab session. And you will continue to connect with your table participants throughout the remainder of the conference. Session leader logistics are as follows. We will need all session leaders to ensure that they have visited the registration desk to secure the credentials prior to reporting to their assigned room. Session leaders should report to their assigned room 1 hour prior to the start of the session to meet and mingle with other session leaders. Attendees should start arriving to the room approximately 15 minutes prior to the start of the session. You will need to be at your table to greet and get to know those at your table. The Idea Lab session will run for 90 minutes. At the conclusion of the Idea Lab, please direct your table participants to proceed to the closing plenary. Here are some session leader frequently asked questions. How does my role differ from the Idea Lab facilitator? Session leaders work with their table participants to facilitate conversation. Session facilitators are individuals who keep track of time, moving the session from one section to the next. What Idea Lab session am I signed up for? Once you have signed up, you will receive an email confirming your session time, and session leader briefing document outlining the key elements from this orientation. Please email Evelyn Ducoulombier if you would like us to resend this information or confirm your registration status. What if I have additional questions or will not be able to attend? Prior to Hope Global Forums, please reach out to Evelyn Ducoulombier at evelyn.ducoulombier@operationhope.org. How can I learn more information overall about Hope Global Forums? Simply visit hopeglobalforums.org for the full agenda, list of speakers, and much more. Thank you again for your support. We look forward to having you participate as a session leader at Hope Global Forums annual meeting.